you already know me. It's lovely to see Louise on the call. If it's the same Chris Dykes, I know. Chris, it's awesome to see you. And I don't think there's anybody else I know. But hopefully by the end of this evening, we will have got to know each other a little bit at least. So I think a really wonderful way to start, and since we've got this time, we can do it. I'm going to actually send you all out into a breakout room. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself to one of the other people on the call and just tell them what it is that drew you to this event, this conversation. And I'll give you kind of, I think, 3 minutes. Actually, I'll make it 4. And you can get to know each other, introduce yourselves, and say why you are here. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'm just going to make that happen. There will be, I'm actually going to divide you into groups of 3 rather, and we will make it 8 rooms, and I'm going to create the rooms. Give me a second. I'm just talking you through so you know I'm still here. You've got 3 minutes, and if you've never been in a breakout room before, you're going to magically disappear off my screen. You're going to suddenly find yourself with just a couple of other people. Have a conversation, and when the time's up, you'll magically return to my presence. So have fun, enjoy.
Hello, everybody. You need to unmute yourself. Hello. Camila, Luis. Camila, you need to unmute on the left bottom corner. Just click that mute button to unmute yourself. Hello. Hello, hello.
Room. I need to be on my account.
Yes. Oh, I see.
So I think I'm just going to have to take the hit for people that couldn't get in and say, sorry, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think some people.
The rest of the group are going to be coming back now. So I'm going to close the room and bring them all back. Mike, is that the decision?
I'm sorry?
Is that your decision? We're just going to carry on.
I think we just have to. I don't know what else to do, and it's going to be too complicated to try to fix. I have sent out a mail, so if people might see it later, they might see it now.
Yeah.
And if they miss it, they can watch the recording. I just am going to have to cope with it. I'll have to do direct conversations with each person that might complain or write a mail or say they couldn't get in.
Cool.
I don't know what else to do.
Okay, the main group are going to come back now from their breakout rooms, so we should have everybody back in a few moments. And
okay.
I'll let you take over. Shall I just keep host so that I can share screen?
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right. So hopefully that was an exciting beginning. I'm certainly like deeply excited. I've been the host of about a dozen Zoom meetings, or probably 24 Zoom meetings in the last 3 months. And I've been, maybe more, 3 dozen. I've been on probably 100, and I've never had this happen before. So it is an exciting moment for me, and a moment of great creativity in the sense of we're trying to figure out how do we solve the people that are struggling to get in because they got a different link than this link. But I think the solution at this point is going to have to be that we are going to apologize to whoever can't get here. And the 28 of us here so far, whoever else shows up, will be the group that's here tonight. So are you guys okay with that, forgiving that mistake on the very first session we're having and getting into the actual greatness of what we're about to do? Are we good with that?
That's a thumbs up.
Fantastic. So let me introduce very briefly what this is all about in case some of you may not be 100% clear. We have run some webinars. The Innotivity Institute is a non-existent entity. It is simply a brand that we launched in the past month. What it is that after running creativity and innovation trainings over the past couple of years for a variety of entrepreneurs and companies, we started certifying creativity coaches. And that started as a process in April of this year. And the first coaches that were successfully certified finished about 2 weeks ago, I believe, perhaps 3 on the top line for the best of them. And so we have about 40 people who have gone through the program. And of those 40, about a dozen are now newly certified, internationally certified by the ICR creativity coaches, right? And that means they've gone through the training program that I've created in terms of amping up creative skills and the ability to shift a person's creative mindset, right? Based very much on the basic idea that all of us, pretty much, with a very few exceptions, are creative geniuses at the age of 5, and by the time we reach adulthood, almost none of us still are. So that's the basis of the creativity training and work we do. It starts from there, that all of us have the capacity to be highly creative, you know, and other very important factors, such as, for example, the fact that the world right now needs creativity more than any other skill. So, you know, that's probably why all of you are here, because you're interested in that topic. So, without going into too much more detail, I just want you guys to know that in future, it's not for tonight, but in future, the creativity coaches will be leading each of the breakout conversations because they actually will have been prepared for the evening more than those who are just visiting. So basically, you'll get to know those coaches as you go through the breakout rooms over time. But for tonight, it's the very, very first one of these we're doing, and the structure of the evening is pretty much like this. We introduce the session, and that's what I'm doing now. After that, the guest will give a short presentation between 20, maybe 30 minutes at max, but hopefully more like 20, so there's a bit of time for some Q&A or questions about that. She'll then pose a little bit of thoughts for you to go into a breakout session with. We'll break you up into groups of about 4 to 5 people. You can have those conversations about what the topic was. After that, we'll come back and do some feedback about what you guys thought. And then finally, a time for people who want to take 2 minutes or so and share what you'd like to share about yourself with the community. So the idea here is this is not a one-off webinar, right? The idea here is that this is actually a networking, ongoing party. It's going to be the same time every time, barring some big shift in some reason that we can't do that. And the idea is that you come as much as you can, regardless of who the specific speaker is. It's always going to be someone really, really great. I promise you that. Right now on this call, the next 2 speakers are actually on this call right now. Right? And by the end of the call, we'll tell you who that is. So you can look around on the call right now if you want. Okay, whoever has their mics open, please mute yourself. And Dennis, if you could manage that possibly. So whoever, if you guys want to have a look around the room and see if you can figure out who might be the future speakers, but that's just for fun and games for yourselves, right? very important if possible, and it's kind of really hilarious that not only do we have this mix up in terms of the links tonight that has been a bit of a trip, but our first speaker, although she is a Zoom expert, although she is a fantastic genius in the way she approaches all of this kind of conversation, and I've seen her give talks in a number of contexts and is always successful, she showed up tonight without a camera, right? So, and she didn't tell me that ahead of time. But so those of you who are here without a camera, please do realize that at some point we would like to see you, because the point of being here is like we're at an event, right? A real event in the real world. And if I was here right now talking to you, and I was talking to you like this, with a name tag across my face, right? Saying my name and maybe only my first name, like Ria, it would be weird, wouldn't it? So the point of being here is to be together. And even though we're in the virtual world, and even though we don't even know each other, a lot of us, right? And I have an advantage, I know probably more of you than any of us, because I've trained the coaches, and most of, a lot of you guys came through my requests. So there's only maybe 20% of the people in this call that I don't personally know in some way. But by the end of this month, say, hopefully that will be an anomaly, and actually you guys will know each other a lot better than I know you, I hope. Because there's a lot more interesting people here than me, that's for sure, right? So if you're able to turn your camera on, even if it's just at the time we do the networking, it would really be appreciated. If, like Janet, you've actually showed up as a speaker with no camera at all, we can't really help, right? But keep in mind, we're really here to try to be together. Does that make sense, guys? You with me? We've literally called it a networking think tank, because that's what it is. It's an event where you can actually think, and we can actually be engaged, but we don't know what it's going to be necessarily before we get here, and we're not here for that only. We're here to be together. So, having said all that, I would like to introduce you to the invisible, but incredibly amazing Janet DePriest, who runs an organization called Engagement Dynamics. She also is the person who's in charge of an event that has not happened for a while because we've been in lockdown, but it's called Disrupt HR Josie. They've done 4 of those events, I think, or 5 events in the past couple of years, but hopefully she'll tell us at some point when the next one might be, or if they're going to do an online or something. And she's got another amazing event next week that I'm sure she'll mention too, but let me stop talking now, because I've talked enough for now. So Janet, please regale us with your amazing new ideas that we are going to remember forever happened today.
Michael, that is the best. The best intro ever. Thank you very, very much. It's really lovely to be with you all. And it doesn't matter that you can't see my face, because I'm going to share my screen, so you wouldn't be able to see my face anyway. So here we go. But I will show my face at some point in the exercise. So I am going to share with you tonight. Just let me know if there's any problem. But Mike, can you see my screen? Up. Yes, no. Shout at me if you can't.
We can see it. We can see it.
Good. So I'm going to share with you, the title of my presentation is Astute Design. I'm looking at the time. I'm going to be finished definitely by 5 to 8 absolute latest. I was given 30 minutes. And I can guarantee you that you have not seen this before, because I developed this framework a couple of weeks ago, and you might have seen elements of it before, but it is brand spanking new. So I hope it's going to give lots of food for thought. I'm going to, in the interest of time, this is the one thing about Zoom that irritates me. Sorry, slides that won't go forward. There we go. Okay, so I do have a slide here that talks about COVID-19, because I think it's very important that we just acknowledge the context in which we sit. And just in the interest of time, I'm just going to read that last sentence. Really mindful that much as this is creating amazing opportunities for some of us, that lots of interesting and exciting things are happening, that there are many people who are summoning their resources to build a world after COVID-19. And there are thousands whose losses will never, ever be recovered. And we grieve with them, and we will seek to remember them for good. So first of all, we're going to show up together, and just because we've had a little bit of a delay, I was going to ask you all to just introduce yourselves and potentially in the chat, and I wanted you to just share, what do you do to make money, and do you consider yourself to be a designer? And so maybe a couple of you can just unmute yourselves. Let's not worry about names for right now, but a few of you, just take a moment, tell us what you do to make money, and answer that question. Do you consider yourself to be a designer? I'm going to allow 5 people to speak. And if you don't show up, I'll pick you.
Okay.
I saw Ria.
I have a question. Hi, this is Saraya, and I'm from, I run a nonprofit organization called Color Me Africa Fine Arts, both here and I'm from the born in South Africa, live in Chicago, and our nonprofit is based in South Africa and in Chicago.
Yes.
We focus on visual artists.
Sorry, Saraya, can you just tell me what's the question?
So my question is, you asked me to introduce myself, and that's what I'm doing.
Yes. Okay. Right.
So can I complete that?
Sure.
Thank you.
If you can do it in 1 sentence.
I'm trying.
Cool.
Thank you. And so I work with artists, and that is how we generate income.
Cool.
And then I'm not sure I understand your question. Do you consider yourself to be a designer of what?
So I'm gonna ask you just to respond to that question on face value and tell me, do you think you're a designer or not? Without me explaining it.
I'm a designer of my life, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Cool, thank you so much for that. Who's next?
Floris here.
Yes, Floris.
I run workshops on how to build courage, and I believe I'm a full designer because each person reacts differently on uncertainty and how to build courage.
Awesome, lovely answer. Thank you so much. Interesting to hear what people do. Who's next?
I'll stand up.
Yes, that sounds like Chris.
First of all, it's good to see you again, Janet. We haven't spoken for long.
Absolutely.
So my name's Chris, and over COVID launched a program helping kids to study more effectively and to use their minds more effectively.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool. And also launching a leadership and a values-based program that's also digital, linked to an international program. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
And am I a designer? Yes, without a question or doubt.
I've known you a long time. Yes, Chris. Okay, let's have one more person.
Hi.
Hi. Yes. Hi.
So my name's Katrina. I make money by selling my artwork and by teaching other people art and a creative approach in life. And I absolutely consider myself a designer.
Stunning. Lovely. Thank you, everybody. If I can ask you all just to mute now, I will let you know when we're going to chat again. So if we move on, this program was kind of born out of my current focus, which is developing 21st century leadership skills. And I could tell you lots more about that, but I'm not going to in the interest of time. And this was a presentation that I actually prepared for a Fourth Industrial Revolution talk that I needed to give. And I'm introducing you to the Astute Design Framework. And this is what it looks like. So I'm not going to actually go into the background of how I developed it, but interesting things that people have said to me in the last week. Firstly, I was speaking to a PhD student in the Netherlands who is using design science research methodology, and we got chatting about this, and she said one of the challenges with design science is that actually there are really no new current models, that the models that they're using for design science research are actually already quite old. And so she said that after I'd already developed this, and so that was quite cool to hear that actually there is a need. And then secondly, it was kind of just thinking about some elements of design thinking, which is obviously very, very common, and a lot of people are aware of design thinking, and saying maybe there are some gaps. So those are some of the thoughts that kind of just underpin this. And I'm literally just going to go through each of the S's, explain what they are, not necessarily a huge amount of conversation, and then we'll have 2 questions that we'll talk about in the breakout rooms. So I think the very first thing about design is maybe just to respond to that question. I'm really glad you all said you were designers, but I did an assignment for Varsity recently. I'm busy with a master's, and we were asked to effectively look at everything we were doing around strategy, around answering questions about technology and various things like that through a design lens. And I just found that a really interesting assignment to do, and it did get me thinking around this. And so the first S for me is a very important word. It's the word sense. And so I think it's a really important that we begin any process of design by sensing effectively. And sense making is a really, really key word in my vocabulary. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of thoughts around sensing and sense making. So I think we've got so many new amazing tools for understanding people. Traditionally, we've had these quantitative tools. Honestly, they didn't necessarily give us really rich data. And there are some amazing new tools that are suddenly on our radar. They may be already in our organizations and in the work that we're doing. And I'm not going to talk through each one of these individually. But the bottom line is that the use of technology is enriching our ability to understand the world around us. Now, I'm not by any means undermining the value of deep qualitative work, which I still think is the most effective way to make sense or to gain data. But if we can combine deep, rich, qualitative sensing and qualitative conversations with technology that is enabling us to get deeper and richer information than that quantitative data has not always given to us, then we really are almost experiencing more of a win-win kind of scenario. So lots I could say about sense making, but I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about the next S. And the next S is a really interesting one. It's seen. And this came out of the essay that I was actually doing recently, where I framed it in the context of COVID. And one of the things that I'm seeing in the organizations that I'm working with at the moment is that we're all having to make really big decisions, and we're having to make them in a context where most of our assumptions have been stripped away from us. Things that we took as read before are no longer true, or we don't know whether they'll be true or not. And there's an awful lot of uncertainty. There really is no definite certainty that, for example, that we won't be back in level 5 lockdown in South Africa in a month's time. I don't think it's likely, but it could happen. And so the idea of scenario planning and mapping through different possible outcomes, different possible pathways, different possible routes that are going to open up to us in the future has become extremely important. An awful lot of time when people want to design, they base their designs on a lot of assumptions. And right now we can't do that. So if ever there's been a time that this has been obvious, it's now. Next S is the identification of stakeholders and the engagement of stakeholders. So I actually know that my slides, I'm now behind my slides. So sorry, let's quickly just go back to scenario planning. One of the critical things is just identifying what are the most critical variables that could change and shift. What are the assumptions that we are basing our different scenarios on? I know Louise first introduced me to scenario planning. And we're in the midst of a new round of scenario plans within South Africa, or actually they've come to an end, but everything has shifted again because of COVID. So just, you can just have a quick look. I'm not gonna speak to this because we've only got 30 minutes. So then the next S is stakeholders. And so if we look at that, I think what's really becoming important, and Michael said that creativity is one of the most critical or he says it is the most critical 21st century skill. He may or may not be right. I know some of his research says that he's right, but I'll tell you the other word that I'm hearing as frequently as creativity is the word collaboration. And it's becoming extremely important that we be able to collaborate and engage in strategic partnerships, both inside of organizations and externally. And one of the biggest challenges is that, especially as we take on bigger and bigger problems, some of you may be familiar with the term wicked problems, and COVID-19, many people would define as a wicked problem. And the trouble is that when we take on these very big, complex problems and try to solve them, is that there are multiple players involved. And one of the biggest issues in involving multiple stakeholders is that they often have widely diverging value systems and intentions. And sometimes what each party wants out of the deal can be in conflict with what other partners are looking for. And so engaging stakeholders is actually an extremely important part of this role, or part of the design process. And again, it's one that we don't necessarily think about, but it's becoming increasingly important when we design, that we don't design alone, but that we actually design in team, in collaboration. If you look at this S, you'll see that there's actually quite a big gap between stakeholders and the next one, which is set. And the reason for that is that this is a point at which you need to go slow. One of the things, and I think, Louise, you may even have been the person who taught me this, but I certainly know we learned it in the very early days of my involvement with OD, and that is that sometimes you have to go slow to go quick. And Louise is giving me a thumbs up there. So sometimes the very beginning part of it, and the sensing, scenario planning or scening and stakeholder engagement piece might actually take up half your time in a really solid design process if you're going to do it well. The next S stands for setting objectives. And I like to talk about two different types of objective. And that is transactional objectives and transformational objectives. So we're really good at transactional objectives. We need to introduce a SAP system into our business, and that's just the most obvious example that comes to my mind. Okay, we're going to do that. And at the end, we'll know the system will be in, it'll be working fine, etc., etc. What we don't think about are our transformational objectives. And for me, a transformational objective is how we will be different because we did this together. So if I'm, for example, designing a facilitation skills program, there are certain things I want people to learn during that program. There are skills that they're going to need to develop. And those are all really important. But for me, it is as important, if not more important, that they have grown as people. They have grown in their ability to interact. They have developed some of those 21st century skills we spoke about through being in the process. And I may not even make those objectives as overt and obvious. And so when we're in a design process, I think it's critically important that we look not just at the transaction, not just at what are we tangibly going to see at the end of this process, but how will people be different? How will their relationships be different? How will they show up in a different kind of way? Some of you may be familiar with a massive transformative purpose. And if we think about this on an organizational level, some of the current thinking around, oh, for goodness sake, it's gone. Exponential organizations and rapidly scaling organizations, they tend to be formed around a massive transformative purpose, a really big difference that they want to make in the world. So there's a question here, and I want you to write this question down. Or maybe I'm going to suggest you actually just take a picture of it with your phone or print a screen. We will come back to just now, but this is one of the questions that we're going to talk about in the what's his name, breakout rooms just now. So I'll give you 2 seconds just to either write it down, take a picture, or print screen. But I will also put it in the chat room for you just now. Cool. So we come back to the S, and the next S stands for search. And this is something that you will be very familiar with if you have listened at all to Michael or been involved at all with Michael's programs, because one of the things he does so wonderfully is he brings up some amazing creativity tools and instruments. Instruments like Scamper, like forced associations, and real innovation and creativity tools. And so when we go to search, we're ideating. We're trying to come up with different ideas, and there are so many wonderful tools that you can use for this. And I just want to mention Miro. I don't know how many of you have come across it. It's an online whiteboarding tool. There are others, but this one I think is particularly cost effective, and they've got some amazing templates that you can use for some of these tools. I think they've definitely got mind mapping on there. I think there's a forced association tool, but there are a whole lot of others. And honestly, I've just managed to design my whole future of my business using that as a tool. And if anybody wants to know more about it, you're welcome to drop me a line. I'll give you my email address at the end. So we've now got loads of ideas. And the critical thing, of course, and everybody says, brainstorming theory apparently says you don't come up with as many ideas when you brainstorm. And I have to agree with that. I think you come up with more ideas when you use really good brainstorming tools like the ones that I mentioned. But now you've got loads of ideas. And the challenge, of course, is to decide which of those ideas you're actually going to work with. And so here you're starting to look at ideas that you really want to pursue, and you need to have some kind of a short list. And the way that you do that is to identify selection criteria that are aligned with the objectives you set right at the beginning. I suggest that if you can, you limit your ideas to pursue to about 3, because you're actually going to do quite a bit of work on those before you settle down into a final solution. But you may want to hold some of those ideas just kind of nearby, because sometimes they can enrich the ideas that you choose to work with. Back to our S, and so we've now started to narrow down and find some solutions or select some solutions to work on. And this is where we're going to get back into design thinking. And I'm using the phrase to, hold on a second, because give me one moment, because I need to move something on my screen so that I can see what I'm doing here, because I may be saying the wrong thing. Okay, no. So we now have to make a sample. And in design thinking terminology, that's a prototype. And I'm sure you've heard of lots of people talking about prototypes if you haven't developed some of them yourselves. And some of the ways that you can prototype, you can obviously sketch or draw. You can use wireframing if you're doing app development or any kind of IT development. Models with Lego are wonderful. And Louise, this may also put a smile on your face, but both of us have been very involved in the past with a wonderful training organization. And I was set to do a workshop there one day, and I wanted to build a prototype of a disengaged organization. And I decided that I was going to do it with recyclables. And so the day before the event, I sent to this particular organization a bunch of bags of polystyrene and toilet rolls and all sorts of things like that. And the MD of the company saw all this and said over his dead body was this going to happen in his organization. So I had to do some very fast redesigning the following morning, but we did make it happen. And then pilots. So if you're running a program, you may actually put a pilot program together. Lots of different ways in which you can prototype a solution. And that little phrase at the top, minimum viable product, this is also a term that has been become very familiar and very popular in the sort of lean startup environment, where it is about rapidly developing something new, putting it into the market. So minimum viable says, what's the very least we can do to test our idea, put it out into the market, and then get real-time, real feedback from real potential customers. So people will often talk about an MV, and very, very common in the lean startup methodology environment. So moving back, we've now, oh, sorry, I'm just needing to move things on my screen so I can see here. So we've sensed, we've scenario planned, we've engaged stakeholders, we've set objectives, we've searched for ideas, we've settled on a few solutions to work on, we've created some samples, and now we need to stress test them. And again, this is the important thing of putting them, the ideas, in front of the real people who are going to actually work with our solutions. Let users get their hands dirty. And you know what? There are always early adopters who are very happy to do that. They're very happy to be the first people to try something out, especially if you give it to them for free. And create, very important though, is to create effective feedback systems so that you're getting responses from people to what it is that you're putting out to them. Don't be afraid to charge a little if this is a product that you want to put into the market, because amazingly, there are people who will be prepared to pay. And then most critical thing, in my opinion, this is the most, and will always be the most important leadership skill, is to listen and be really open to the comments and the criticisms that people give you. We're nearly at the end, but this is now a really, really important point. And that is to swivel or to settle. And you can see that from this point, there are a lot of arrows that go back to different points of the S. And one of the difficult challenges about being a designer is that sometimes you don't get it right. It's always going to be an emergent process. Feedback is going to come back, and you may find that actually it's not going to work. And you've got to go back to some point in the system. You may have, if you didn't sense effectively right in the beginning, you may actually have to go right back and start listening to your customers better. And this again points out the importance of that very slow to go quick phase. Do the first part of the exercise a lot slower than you might want to do it. And hopefully then reduce the risk that you have to go right back to the beginning. So swivel, go back to the beginning, or settle on the fact that actually this is a product or a solution or whatever it may be, in whatever context you're using it, that looks like it's going to work. So maybe just quickly to kind of just give some different contexts. I work in organizational development, and we might be asked to go into an organization with a little juicy challenge that they've got, and now we're going to design a solution. And because people are complex beings, we can't guarantee that our solution will definitely work in this organization specifically. And so we may run a little pilot program, and we may run it in a few different departments, and we may begin to get lots of feedback that says, actually, this does look like it may be a solution. And we can then settle on that, and we can roll it out potentially to the rest of the organization. So this is another way of applying the process. If you were designing a product to put into the market, and you decide this is now the product and this is what we're going to sell, it doesn't mean you can't continue to develop it. Of course you can do that. But this is the moment at which you begin to develop your business model or your rollout model, which is the system. And sorry, I've just quickly skipped a few slides because I got so carried away. A lot of people want to develop a business model right at the beginning and say, this is how we're going to make money. And you know what? When they ask you for business plans, they expect you to do that. They expect you to tell them exactly what's going to happen, how many people are going to buy, what they're going to pay for, etc., etc. And certainly in terms of lean methodology and the kind of new forms of strategy that are evolving, people are saying, don't even think about that until you've got a product that's tested and ready to go to market. Then you can define a business model in terms of how you're going to actually make your money, or you're going to roll it out through the whole organization or whatever. So that is the system. And this is the point at which you define your business model. Decide and be clear on how you're going to increase the return on investment for clients or for people within your organization. Maybe use tools like the business model canvas, various other models. I'm just going to flip through a couple. So this is just, if you've never read the book Exponential Organizations and you're involved at all in leadership or organizational development or design, I highly recommend this book. This is a model that talks about how people are running really fast-growing, mostly technology-based businesses at the moment. And this is the model that's evolved. Business Model Canvas, some of you may be familiar with it. Again, a really, really useful framework just to really identify what it is you're going to do. And if you look at Business Model Canvas, if you actually go and do some research online, there are all sorts of other canvases that have been based on this model. So there's a creativity canvas and various others that you may want to go and research. And this is a model that I use in my own business, which just helps us to look at every area of the business that we want to actually develop. So once you've developed your system, now it's time to get out and spread it and make sure that actually you are scaling effectively, particularly if you are running a business, rolling an intervention out through a very large organization, maybe getting onto social media and making sure that everybody's coming to your programs or whatever it may be. We're now getting into spreading. And so scale with a good product and a system that is built to scale. And the critical thing is that when people want to grow, for example, if they want to grow a business rapidly, or they want to go into mass production, or they want whatever it is you're wanting to do in a big way, they unfortunately don't always build the system that's going to support that. And it's critically important, I believe, that we identify all the processes that are going to help to scale. So just for example, I had a client who came to me and they said, please teach us how to scale our business. Help us develop the sort of C-suite that's going to scale this business. And we looked at all the critical processes that would be required if we suddenly had 10 times as many clients that walked in the door tomorrow. And what would we have to be able to do brilliantly and consistently in an integrated way that would enable that to happen without any hitches. And so that's a useful way of thinking. Replicate, and I have to say it, particularly to my South African compatriots, let's show up world class. Let's create products and solutions that the world wants to buy. It is the only way we're going to fix this economy. We have got to get money coming into South Africa. And then the last S, start again. With something new, with another new product, with whatever it may be. And so again, maybe just take a quick picture. If you do want to get hold of me, there are my contact details. So I think I'm pretty bang on 30 minutes. And we can now go back to, I'm going to stop sharing. And we can now go into groups. Michael, do you want to facilitate that? How would you like us to do it? Do you want me to give you the host?
Well, yeah, it looks like I can't do it because I've given you the host. So yes, please.
Yes. Okay.
While you're doing that,
yes.
Could I ask you a couple of questions to contextualize things?
You certainly may.
And maybe you did this while I was running in circles in the virtual world, trying to save our drowning people. But yes. Could you contextualize you said you've only really kind of developed this in the last few weeks. What is the vision here that is making this exciting for you? Like, what is it about this model that you see as being new and unique?
So that's a great question, Michael. First of all, I just like creating new things, so that always excites me. But secondly, I think it's very, very versatile. And thirdly, I think it particularly brings in and addresses some things that are critically important in our COVID and post-COVID context, where so much has shifted. And if we keep doing things the way that we've always done them, without being mindful of the complexities, we're going to just fall on our faces. And quite honestly, we've got to recover as quickly as we possibly can. We need everybody to be as successful as they can possibly be as quickly as possible. And I think there are some elements of this that may be helpful that are missing maybe in some of the more common models that we're used to using.
Excellent. Okay, great. The second question I wanted to ask to contextualize this is simply like, what would you like the people here on this call to take away from this presentation? I mean, it's obviously way more detailed than we've had time to really understand.
Sure.
So how would you like us to kind of contextualize the basics of why we would want about it?
Oh my word, Michael. So I have to tell you, when I show up to a learning thing, I never know what the topic's going to be. It's usually because there's somebody interesting there, or it's a bunch of people I just trust that they're always going to have interesting things to say. And I never go with I go with an open mind. So maybe to say to you what I say to a lot of people when I'm facilitating for them, I am going to present a smorgasbord, a buffet table, and every single one of you will approach that buffet table with a different appetite. And so my genuine hope is that somebody has seen something that is a clue to a part of their design journey tonight. That they can say, that makes some sense. I need to do some more research. I need to ask some questions. I need to explore out. Or that's the thing that's missing right now, and I need to do that. Oh my goodness, I didn't do this. I better go back and do that quickly before I move on. Or very hard question for me to answer, Michael. I'm an individualist. Nobody is on the same journey.
You know that I never ask easy questions.
No.
Speaking of questions, I believe you have a question you'd like to throw at people to go off into breakout and have a bit of a conversation.
Yes. So I think the easiest way for me to do this, if you can give me 2 seconds, I just have to maybe.
I'm inside. I wouldn't know. It felt 98 when I was outside.
Thanks, Ahmad.
Oh.
So we're going to go into the first round of questions, and I'm going to ask you to think about your own design challenge. And a couple of people at the beginning of this conversation said they consider themselves to be designers. So I'm going to suggest to anybody who doesn't think they are, you are all designing something right now. Whether it be redesigning the way that your family works, redesigning how work works, designing a new product or solution, or whatever it may be, I would suggest that most of you, probably all of you, are involved in some form of design right now. So if you think about that design, oh, I've just sent this only to Louise, so I better make sure that I don't do that. Just give me 1 second so I can just make sure this goes to everybody. So going into the breakout room and thinking about what you're designing, what are the transactional objectives you're trying to achieve? And then what transformations might be affected simultaneously? So at the same time as you're redesigning your work situation, what amazing transformational objectives might be achieved? Somebody said this morning on a call I was on, everybody's talking about the new normal. In his organization, they're saying, how can we design a better normal? And I think that really kind of captures what I want to say here. Anybody got any questions that make sense before Michael sends you off into breakout?
Okay, so here's what's going to happen, guys. Normally, we're going to do about a 10-minute breakout with 2 sessions. What we're going to do now is about between 7 and 8 minutes, just to speed it up a little bit. So I'm making a little smaller groups for now, so you can have a little bit, more attention with each other in the groups. So your group will be either 3 or 4 people, with one exception I'm going to fix right now. Sorry, hold on. Just do that, and then basically you'll have 3 to 4 people depending on the group you're in. If you have less, I'm sorry, but we will hope that it gets the second round that you get more people. But here we go. See you guys in 8 minutes.
Hi, Neil. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Denise. How are you?
Hi, thank you.
I'm great, thanks. Hi, Louise.
Hello. Do you two know each other?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm meeting them for the first time. I don't have power in my house, so I won't put the camera because it will be unfair. It will be dark. But at least I've got power on my phone so I can continue with the lesson.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Well, you've got a beautiful voice, so that's fine.
That's a presentation voice. I should think of
sure.
training some voice.
Louisa, good to see you again.
Yeah. So then, Dennis, how did you get to be on this call?
Part of the institute, Creative Institute. And
Okay.
I was part also of the creative coaching, the first round. And I was actually the first one that graduated. So it was very, very interesting and a very nice journey.
Wow. So yeah, so I'm kind of the reason why I'm on this call is not so much to hear what Janice has to say, but because I'm going to be speaking to next week, and I wanted to get an idea of the process. So I have to admit that I'm multitasking a bit.
I know that feeling.
Oh yeah, it's not good. Too many things happening for me right now.
Oh, no,
so I'm curious to hear what you guys are designing. I'm going to be a voyager in your journey.
Let's ask New to go first.
Me?
What do you do? What is your job? Tell us what, because it's always nice to just get a sense of who these people are. So what do you do when you're not?
No, I'm a professional nurse by training, but I'm currently a lecturer in leadership and management at a nursing college in Botswana. I'm teaching in Lobate, so I'm currently doing my master's dissertation for Master of Nursing Science and Community Health Nursing. So I'm actually interested in, starting up a business in training organizations on leadership skills and, how to transform leaders for effectiveness of companies, and also maybe redesigning their quality structures or maybe accreditation programs. That's currently my study and my master's. So I'm assessing the accreditation standards, how organizations are not meeting the standards, and how I can help them identify the gaps. And so basically I will enterprise that now, maybe make it a model for presentations in companies, just to come and pitch and give them ideas how they can transform.
Sounds interesting.
Wow, wonderful.
Really? Because, I've been postponing this for too long. It's been 3 years after I completed my degree in leadership and management. So I really love leading. And I always take up, if they say, who wants to lead? I'm like, first, always top of the list. So that I gain skills, not necessarily my educational skills, but also the interaction skills, presentation skills, which is most important when you want to become a speaker and coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you're from a qualified nurse and now in the leadership space. Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very. I always get questions to say, "Are you sure you are a nurse?" I'm saying, "Yeah, I am." Just that it's been 18 years now. I'm teaching. I've done enough of nursing, so I can as well share how to lead nurses.
So I just want to quickly on.
Oh, so he's on a call.
No.
Okay.
So New, you're reminding me, I did many years ago, it feels like a long time, well, 20 years ago, I did my doctorate, and one of the ladies who did it with me, she was in nursing. She was a head of nursing of some big teaching hospital in the UK. And then she became a
one of the lecturers on the course. So it's a very similar situation with. I think there's something nurses and nurse leaders clearly have something to offer the world.
Yeah.
Definitely, we have a lot, and knowing the human mind, the mechanics of human science gives us an upper hand, because you get to understand how people think, how they can react in certain situations, and how you can even look at how they've reacted and also maybe gotten some effects. Yeah,
absolutely agree, Neil. And at last, if you can't fix a problem and help them to fix the problem, you can always put the band-aid on the mouth if the person does not provide.
Oh yeah. All right, it was nice meeting you guys, and we left with 26 seconds, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And I hope, Neil, you will join us next week as well.
I'm on the South African. I'll join every week, I think.
Oh, great.
Running every week, yeah.
Because we have
so that I can learn something. Yeah.
Because we have privilege to have Luis next week, so.
All right. Louise, are you back? I'm sorry, Janet, are you back?
I am back.
Fantastic.
And I was so glad to be in a group.
Yeah, well, because you weren't the host, you went. Let's hear from two groups out of that really are excited to share very briefly, for Janet's benefit as well, what you got to share about what that conversation was. Don't be shy. Yes, Ria.
Start.
Yeah.
I'm going to try. So I was fortunate enough to have Janet in my group, which was great. So thank you. And the question, I think the main question was, where do you see yourself in 6 weeks in terms of once the transformation has begun or, set? And she gave quite a nice few pointers in terms of, well, I said what I want is to have a face, because I'm trying to transition from one career to another. So how do I develop that face? How do I connect to people? It's a simple Facebook page or simple website. And what Janet said is, there needs to be confidence as well. And also, what is the intention? So I'm there to help others grow and also to help myself get into a new path. So just a different way of looking at it. So instead of putting too much pressure on oneself to get things perfect, which then will take forever to do, just start off small and then start building up on that.
Mike, can I chip in quickly?
I was about to ask you.
So what was really interesting in being in the group was that we're not used to talking about transactional and transformational objectives. And actually, very often we're not even very good at setting an objective at all. We kind of say, well, yeah, I kind of want a business and I need a Facebook, and we kind of get this big muddled picture of what we're going to do. And so what I encouraged Ria to do is say, right, so pick one transactional goal, one thing you will be able to see in 6 weeks' time. And she said, I need a Facebook page, website, something like that. So cool, that's a great transactional goal. Now, if you're going to have that, when you've got that face, how are you going to be a different person in 6 weeks' time when that face is up? Because your face is going to say something about you. And you need to be able to live up to what the face says. And you need to be confident enough to make sure that actually you're out there and everybody can see you. And so she listed a couple of things. She needs to be confident, independent, excited, and impactful, which are all transformational goals. That's about her changing. So that was such a great example for us to play with.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you. You explained it so much better.
And I'm glad I got the opportunity to, I'm so glad you spoke up, because I'm guessing that some of the other groups may have had difficulty with the concept.
Well, let's find out. Let's hear from one other group who may or may not have had difficulty. Who would like to share?
Well, I will go.
Thank you, Flores.
Michelle and I was together in a group, and actually we came up with the same example. During the COVID time, she's doing mediation, and I'm running these workshops on building courage. And before the COVID time, we done it face to face, of course, because you're busy with emotions, you're busy with people's livelihoods and things like that. And then suddenly COVID came, and we had to transfer transactional to virtual platforms. And suddenly both of us had total new products and a total new business model on how to use our skills and how to actually expand our skills around the world now. It's not just anymore specifically in a space. And I'm running workshops now around the world, which is great. So yeah, that is the transformational part of a business, just because you are forced, or because of the COVID forced us to go virtual.
Janet?
Cool. So I'm going to just encourage you to be more precise in the thinking. And so what does that mean? Yeah, you need to transform. It's a great generic word that says we've got to change. But what do you need to do in the next 2 months or the next 6 weeks in order for that to be a reality? And it sounds as though you're already on your way. And then the key in this exercise is saying, so not only what am I going to see, but how am I going to be different? How will my team be different, et cetera, et cetera. What's going to transform on a personal kind of level, on a human level?
And that's a question I have for you, Jeanette.
Yes.
I mean, we went through a design thinking process to get it. So we've done the pilot, corrected the stuff, we ran a second one. So we what is the difference between design thinking and your process that you presented?
So I would suggest that in many respects, you should be able to see design thinking in the process. And
I did, but
good, yes. And actually, it's simply a question of saying, maybe I've expanded on a couple of pieces that don't necessarily always get expanded on during design thinking. And there might be some steps in there that actually don't get covered at all. And it's just additional perspectives. I believe in the power of different lenses. There is no one right design model. This is just a different lens. So yeah. Flores, if I may ask, Michael, have I got time, or do you want to go into, if you've been through a design thinking process, and presumably you've set some objectives in terms of what you want your product to achieve.
Yes.
So do you mind telling us really quickly, what's your product designed to achieve?
Well, I have to take it out. We've done the canvas, everything.
Yes.
I don't have it right here. Wait, I might have to.
This may take too long.
Yeah, no, it's going to take too long.
All right. Then let's not worry.
Let me clarify something for you guys as well, because this is a very experimental moment tonight, right? We've leaped into putting this together, and we will be starting in the next few days a group that you guys we will send everybody to join. And if we want to continue these conversations about this topic in that group, what will happen is Janet will create a specific thread, and people can put their comments into that. They can put their documents into that. That can go on and on throughout the next months, that one thread. Does that make sense? So what we'll do is each week we'll start one thread in that group, so that there can be engagement around that topic. If that's something you're really interested in, you could do lots of stuff there, or you could, ignore it completely, as you wish. But that's what we'll start in the next couple of days, and we'll inform you on the mail. So if Flores wants to go into a lot of depth and you want to engage him on that, we can do that. Would that work for everybody? Or is there anybody that doesn't work for? I guess that's the best way to ask it. Raise your hand if you don't like that idea. Is there anybody here on this call that's not on LinkedIn? Raise your hand or make a noise if you are not on LinkedIn. Franks, get on LinkedIn. We're going to operate on LinkedIn, not on Facebook, right, in terms of a group. I'm hoping, and we're all hoping, I think, that whoever's been on this call will, in fact, come back as much as possible and will join and visit that group and interact. The idea is to build up, the people that are keen, that are getting engagement out of this and that enjoy the process, that you guys will get to know each other if you don't already. Janet.
Yes.
Second.
Want another question?
Yeah.
Yeah, a second. I'm just going to get it for you. Okay, so this is possibly also a juicy one, maybe thinking about things a little bit differently from how you used to. And sorry, I again just need to make sure I'm sending this to everybody. So the first thing I need to tell you is that I believe that people are physical, social, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual beings. And we can invest physically, socially, emotionally, intellectually, or spiritually. Okay, and money is a social currency. So if you think about, and I've used the word clients here, let's use that very loosely, in the area that you are designing. So somebody's just connected with me, it's Ashwin in the group, has just connected with me, saw something about him on LinkedIn. If you are, for example, looking to say, I want to be in a new job role, I want to be in a new business or whatever it may be, what investment are you wanting from the people that you are selling to? And I'm using the word selling very loosely. So whatever it is that you are designing, there are customers, clients, users, participants, whatever term is relevant to your context, bosses, whoever. What kind of investment are you wanting from them? And think about it in terms of those 5 words. I know this is probably a different way of thinking. Does anybody have any questions before you go into the groups? Does it make sense?
And 5, 4, 3, 2.
How are you, Dennis?
Hi there.
Hi, Frank. Sorry.
Hi.
Hi, Janet.
How are you doing?
Great, thanks.
Good, good. So I'm going to try and sit back.
Just quickly, say, I was busy with
yes,
stuff, getting people on and off. What are we supposed to do now?
So if you go into the chat, if you open the chat,
yeah,
there's a post from me, and it says, it's got a question. It says, what investment are you wanting from your clients, your boss, whoever it is that you are designing for?
Okay.
May even be for yourself. What kind of investment are you seeking from those people? Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. I can, from my point of view, I'm designing a total new CRM system for the company, and we're doing it from scratch. We're not buying any systems. And we are also, I, at this stage, are also designing a new client service protocol for the company. So from that point of view, if I look at what we want to achieve, I think it's more a social contract and also an emotional contract we want to create with our clients, because we also believe that if we up our client service, because that's the only differentiation you can do these days, if we can do that, we will have more sustainable clients coming back. And if I look at our processes, because that's mainly what we need to change is to make it easier for the customers to do business with us as well in a lot of the things that we do. And I think that is what we are trying to do, is to get that social contract, because we are really a partner for our clients, and that's what we want to live. That's our strategy going forward. And hopefully all the processes and practices we're implementing now will aspire to have that social and emotional connection to the company. So hopefully that is the point of it. So,
do you guys mind if I quickly respond? So I'm hearing
Yeah,
you
go for
saying the social investment you want from them is collaborative energy, for example.
yes.
You want them to view you as a partner, and you want them to commit to you as a partner as much as you're committing to them as a partner. Stunning.
Absolutely.
Love that. Cool.
Franks?
Yeah, I can go. Or Elena, do you want to go?
Oh, sure. I don't have the question or the topic in my group chat.
Oh, okay. So, let me quickly post it again for you. Here we go.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. So a lot of this language is new to me. I'm a freelancer. I have been working in video and graphic design in New York. I live in Manhattan. And so my career life has been primarily working with one-on-one clients, or just with small creative businesses, and within production in New York. So one of the struggles and the challenges about living in New York City during this pandemic has been this sense of loss without safety nets. And I feel now very strongly that having a creative design mindset is very much a solution to all of this loss. And as our social fabric has been kind of, the threads have been pulled, but it's been difficult to imagine that there could be some way for this social fabric to stop unraveling. So I'm very new to this training, but I think right now I know that my goal right now is to find creative solutions to stopping this loss, and very much now invested in connecting and reconnecting social fabric. I know this is very conceptual and not very specific, but I think that on a daily basis, this can be accomplished in a variety of ways.
Elena, we've got 15 seconds left. So with Frank's permission, I'm just going to ask you one little question for you to think about, and I'm happy to stay on the call later afterwards if you want to chat. But the question to ask you is, what would you like to see people contributing to that? Whatever.
All right, I think most of us are back. Janet. Janet.
I'm here.
Great. Okay, we unfortunately, due to the clumsy beginning, we are almost out of time. Wednesday is a little bit cramped. So I'd just like if you could round out maybe for 1 minute, and then let's just take a few people if they'd like to just share something important or interesting that's going on, and we'll wrap it up.
Are you suggesting that I round out?
Well, I'm just saying, is there anything you'd like to say to round out from what your experience was in terms of presenting?
So, I just want to say thank you. It looks as though there was some provocation and a lot of new language, and I'm very happy to connect. You've got my contact details, and thank you for the opportunity to share some stuff I feel passionately about.
Thanks, Janet. And thanks for being the first to go. And
guinea pig.
And next time I ask you to speak somewhere, I'm going to make sure to remind to ask you if you do have a camera. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff we still wanted to do in that sort of 20 minutes that we lost. But I'd love to hear if 2 or 3 people would just love to give us a quick introduction. If there's something really interesting or important going on for you, like maybe you have your own webinar coming up, or you have something you'd like people to know about you. We will be, like I said, letting you guys know about the group that will start in the next couple of days. That will allow you to join into that group and then communicate with each other quite easily. And over time, we had about 40 plus people on here at various times tonight. Hopefully next week it'll be much more than that. One of the ways that will happen is if you guys could invite other people if you're enjoying the process. We obviously are really interested in this. It's not a webinar. You come here once and you go home, and it's really something we hope you'll come back to whenever you can. So anybody would like to share anything about yourself for us to know you? If not, I might call on people I think are really interesting and ask you to. Aneo, I think you were to say something.
No, I was coughing. I don't know how I pressed my mute, unmute.
Well,
Yeah.
it must be your spirit. Your spirit is coming forth. So let us know who you are and what you're up to. What do you want to say?
I can just say I'm so excited, and I'm now feeling optimistic about what I'm trying to build before I even consider that now this is a concept that I can work on. I don't know, I didn't get the chance to introduce myself to everyone here. I'm a lecturer in leadership and management in a nursing college, and I'm doing my master's final year on dissertation on doing quality assessment for organizations. So I see this as an opportunity. I've been thinking I'm not a designer. So after this lesson, I see I am a designer. I've been designing lesson plans, teaching plans, presentation plans. That means it's a lot, and something that I can create a system from and work from there. Now I'm thinking, before I even tell people I have a consultancy, I have to build that system first, so that when I bring it, it's a package and people can buy in.
Fantastic. And we're gonna, again, anything that you say or share, you hear somebody that's interesting to you, please, once that group gets going, it'll be very easy to connect to them. One thing that I can encourage also from my own experience is that if you've got something you started thinking about tonight that's in your life, like a project specifically, it might be really worthwhile to come back next week and the week after with that same project in your mind and see what other people's ideas that they're introducing might do to that same project. In other words, it's kind of random what happens each week, but it may all contribute to a very interesting synergy, which is a word I just learned yesterday, was made up not that long ago. So that's one consideration you might try.
Thank you so much. I will be on.
Ben Caldwell. Still there? Yeah. Ben Caldwell. No? All right, Loretta. Loretta, you want to introduce yourself?
God, I was crossing my fingers that you'll just skip right through me, right? Okay, well, first thing I need to apologize because I'm really bad with LinkedIn. It's completely out of date, so you've just given me homework. I'll be going back there to update it, specifically to update on the e-commerce space that I'm in. In terms of designing, I suppose I am. Never thought of myself as a designer, and you've given me food for thought in terms of sort of incorporating that particular S in my marketing communication strategy sphere, and looking at it from a design perspective. And I kind of like that because I do have sort of a matrix that I use for strategy, compilation, but bringing in that S, I think it's going to challenge me a bit. So I like that. So thank you.
Thanks, Loretta. We are at the end of 90 minutes, and I think we're committed to keeping integrity around the time. So unless you'd really like to stay longer, which we can keep the room open if you'd like to, I'd like to complete the session, say thank you again to Janet. Thank you to all of you who are still here. Thank you also to the people who had to go. Two of the people who had to go was Louise Van Rijn, who's going to be speaking next week, and Zanele and Japa, who will be speaking the week after. And we'll send you guys out that information. But in case you guys know those people, they are the two women who will be speaking next. Louise and Zanelli are both very accomplished speakers and teachers, and have a lot to say. So unfortunately, we'll have to keep them short, and you won't hear everything they have to say, but get as much as we can. And the fourth week, a woman named Salima Velani, who is not here tonight. She lives in Washington, D.C., and is heading towards publishing a book called Innovation Begins with I. Later this year, so she will come and talk to us, and she's a TEDx speaker. Basically, guys, if you're interested in speaking on this platform in the rest of the year, let us know, and we'll see what we can do to slot you in as well. And I hope that you guys are enjoying being here tonight, and it was worthwhile. And please let us know what we can do to improve besides sending you the right link to everybody. I know that that's probably useful. I would tell you more about what we're doing, but we're out of time, so we'll do it online. And thanks very much. I really hope that you got value out of this. And if you do want to stay on, I'll keep the room open for now. If you want to stay on and chat a bit, you're welcome to.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Busy.
Thank you. Thank
Elaine,
you and
hang
good
out.
night.
Elaine, hang out for a
Yes.
minute, Elaine.
Okay.
Oh, where'd she go? Oh, she left.
No, I'm here.